All right, so in the event of trying to start this out, probably about 7 times, I've said repeatedly the exact same fucking thing, and I'm about to say it again, I guess. This is super new to me. This is extremely hard for me to do. I'm probably gonna fuck this up. I'm probably gonna butcher it. I don't care how many fucking times I try to do this. I'm gonna mess it up anyway. But I really want to talk about video games. I really want to get into the podcast space, even though it is a little clustered with video game related stuff. I still like talking about it. My friends could basically leave me to myself for hours on Discord just talking about some stupid bullshit that I really care about in a video game. But for some reason, whenever I get up to a mic and I know that this is going to even just one or two people that might listen that I don't know, it fucking terrifies me. So if it sounds a little unprofessional, that's just me trying to get used to this, and I hope you stick around and support the podcast. Cool, let's talk about video games. Let's fucking talk about games. All right, so the biggest thing that happened this week is arguably seems to be slightly mad, making waves all over the board, talking about a new console that they're coming out with. Previously, only being known for making games. It's just kind of weird that all of a sudden they're like, okay, we're just gonna make a competitor console and it's gonna be the best thing ever. They're hyping it up like crazy, and it sounds a lot like, well, a lot of people have been comparing it to the Ouya, which is honestly pretty accurate. There's all these things that he keeps talking about, that like, okay, this is gonna come, this is gonna be a thing, this is gonna be a thing, and he doesn't really give a whole lot of detail as to what any of these things entail. So like, we're gonna have it's gonna be the most powerful console ever. It's gonna have VR support. We're gonna have 120 frames per second at 4K, with the capability to display modern VR games. That doesn't really. I mean, like that's great, but I don't see that there's no companies listed that he's using to back this. And he said somewhere on Twitter that he has like 50 some supporters for the console already, but then he won't discuss exactly what companies are. He's even going so far as to ask for help from the Twitter community about slogans for the console itself. Like, it's said he said that this thing is what, like 3.5 years away from even coming to the market. So I don't understand why this is just becoming a thing he's talking about at all. Not to mention, he's never, like, this company has never made a games console before. Population density is pretty fucking thick. You've already got everybody aligned to their favorite publisher. I don't see what audience is going to be captured by this, just because it's the most powerful console. I mean, the Xbox One X it's not really selling that well. I mean, I have one because, as far as multi-platform games on a console, at least, not a PC, but as far as multi-platform games on a console, that's the best choice. It has the most power, it has the most reliable online servers, not that it fucking matters anyway, because I've got satellite internet, but I don't really discriminate as much as typical console players do, as far as like, oh, the fucking console wars that honestly are pretty oblivious at this point. I own all three 8th generation consoles, and I have respect for each and every one of them for different reasons. But honestly, I don't see why we need another one, because based off of the details and just the screenshots of the early renders of it, it doesn't look like a console. It looks like a Steam Link, or not a Steam Link, but the Steam Box or the Nvidia console. Like, it looks like a consumer PC put into a pretty case. It's a little ridiculous, honestly. And people have been making fun of it ever since they released this thing. They keep on touting all these features, what it's gonna do, they just don't really go into detail about anything like that. So I mean, I guess best of luck to them. I don't really see this going anywhere, especially considering it's 3.5 years away, and they're just immediately tossing out all the features it's gonna have, even though they don't even have like a finalized design concept for it. They're so early in the development of this thing that they don't even have a design concept for it, And they've even said that the design concept that they have themselves does look a bit garish or gaudy, because it does. I mean, it's pretty ridiculous. Like, it's this stupid looking curved, like M-shaped console with like a slit in the middle that apparently is supposed to be for a handle that you can take with you, but it's like it's rested on these curved arches. It doesn't, like, whenever I think console, I think not necessarily portability, but it's just typical console owners, let's say, have an entertainment center, like segmented slots. Like, this thing looks awkward as fuck to be able to put into anything. Everything in the past, I don't even know how long, console wise, has been pretty much the same as far as form factor is considered. And you need that kind of usability, because most people with console gamers, most people with consoles really just, they're not looking for anything gaudy or ridiculous. They're just wanting to put in something, plug in, and play. Like, that's the typical crowd for something as ridiculous as this is, the PC community. But obviously, like a really specific group of the PC community. Something extremely RGB and just over the top. Like, this doesn't look anything like what a console should look like. I mean, that's just my opinion, and things could change over time, because obviously I can't just relegate what this should look like based off of other consoles, because I mean, like Nintendo, for example, changes shit all the time, but it just seems a little weird for it to be considered a console. I have to admit, one thing that really, it's, as far as the design is considered, is their fucking logo. As a game developer, like a little splash screen on a game that you're playing, you only see it for a couple. It's not that bad, but to have this giant ass logo like emblazoned on the side of it, it's a little stupid. It looks really bad. I don't understand how they got anywhere near the design concept they have, but it really needs a revamp. And apparently these wings that are supporting it, they have some kind of function other than just holding them up. It says that they're there for like an actual functional reason as far as the technology inside of it. I have no idea why you would design something that required that. Like, I don't. It's a little weird. We've got two more really interesting things. All right, so growing up, I've always been into I started out with, like typical rock, just mainstream radio shit, like Slipknot and Linkin Park, and the typical stuff like that in the 90s and the mid 2000s. But as time goes on, I got into pretty heavy stuff, and now I'm, as far as rock's concerned, I kind of listen to a little bit of everything, but you don't really see a lot of that in video games. There's kind of a focus on either like really bombastic, like theatrical, orchestral type music, or some kind of like technological, like EDM dance style shit. And like, rock hasn't really had as much of an influence in games, especially now, as it did back in the day, back in the 90s. We've had like a couple games, specifically Brutal Legend. I mean, that's literally rock the game, and it's pretty great. But specifically, I'm talking about Doom 2016. The game originally wasn't even going to have metal in any of the soundtrack whatsoever, until the sound producer Mick Gordon kind of edged them on, like, over and over again over time, until eventually they gave way. They gave him a little bit of freedom to put some in there, and then whenever he presented it to him, it just kind of like the percentage of rock or metal just kind of increased over time, because I mean, it sounds great. And the game releases in 2016, and it's nominated for a BAFTA for its soundtrack. I mean, that's crazy. Don't quote me on this. I'm not really sure if it's 100% true, but I'm pretty sure it's the first time a video game soundtrack has ever been nominated for a mainstream award like that under any category, especially music. It shows that video games themselves have a lot of qualities that people just don't look at as art for some reason. Like the Supreme Court only ruled, it's like less than I think 5 years ago, that video games themselves were a form of art, and I never really understood why that was. But back to the subject, Doom Eternal. That's probably one of my most. I'm really excited for it. Doom 2016 was such a throwback to the classics. That was one of my favorite games growing up. The original Doom. I actually never played 2 or 3, but I got Doom 95 at a garage sale one day. I was just like looking around. We were going to a bunch of yard sales, and I found it because I had this terrible fucking PC. Like it couldn't run anything modern. Modern being, I'm trying to think of how long ago that was. I'm not sure, but I saw that and I was like, oh my god, I've always wanted to play this. I've never played Doom. I've always heard it was, like the grandfather of the first person shooter, except for obviously Wolfenstein being like the true push for first person shooters. Doom just being the one that kind of popularized the genre. I've always wanted to play the first one, so I went and I played it, and it was great. Like, oh my god, I don't know what I was missing out on. I mean, obviously the textures, they were old, but it was impressive whenever you're thinking back at technology back then, having the pseudo 3D environment with all the blood and the guts and the music. Oh my god, it was so good. It was so great. And then all of a sudden, like, as far as just an overall spectrum, I mean, Doom really did flesh out the core concepts for everything as far as that's concerned. And the fact that the music in the game was so great back then kind of confuses me as to why it hasn't been attempted a whole lot in video games since then. But now we get to go back because Doom 2016 had, like, I mean, it was so good. I know some people say it's overrated, and maybe a little bit, but just the fact that the metal community is getting a chance to rejoice in video games with music, and I mean it's great. It's absolutely great. Metal needs its popularity it's been waning. It's always been waning since the 90s, whenever hip hop started gaining traction over hair metal and stuff like that. And I really wanted to come back. I wanted to come back so bad. That's all I ever listened to. Fucking, like old shit, like Metallica and, Metallica and Megadeth and Anthrax and the Slayer, and I promise I didn't just listen to the 4 big ones, but going into newer stuff like Gojira and Between the Buried and Me. Tesseract, even shit like Cannibal Corpse and Dying Fetus. Like, I mean, it's a wide genre that just doesn't get appreciated. Obviously, that stuff's not going to be on the radio. I mean, that's just how it works, because you've got this terrible shit like Five Finger Death Punch. That's just, I mean, oh my god. We're talking about video games. Holy shit. What I meant to talk about from the beginning, fuck's sake, is Mick Gordon, the composer for Doom 2016, is obviously helming the soundtrack for Doom Eternal, and a couple days ago he released a video on YouTube asking people to send in demos for screams. I don't know if they're just talking about highs, hopefully some gutturals, but basically he wants to set up a choir. Get this, like a literal a choir for heavy metal screaming for quote a video game, and it's obvious what he's talking about. I mean, Doom Eternal had better it had better be adding this in. Now, I mean, it's getting a little bit of flack because people are like, we don't necessarily want all the screams and the shit like that embedded in the music itself, because the instrumentals were fine on their own, and it kind of detracts from any vocals or other sound effects in the game that might get filtered out. But all they'd have to do is just treat it like Killing Floor 2, and just, there's like a slider you can just, do ticket, and then it takes off the vocals and focuses on the instruments themselves. But putting that into a video game with the atmosphere like Doom sounds like just like the most ridiculous idea possible. The gameplay that they showed at QuakeCon was it was incredible. Like it was fucking crazy. All the like the movement system and the fucking oh my god, the super shotgun with the chain, like everything looks like it's so much faster and fluid. And oh man, and I'm probably gonna get some flack for this, but as far as the movement system goes, it almost is like a transition from the original Halo combat to like Halo 5's movement style, where there was like the quote at the beginning before the game released that it really makes you feel like a Spartan. And I mean, I know a lot of people condemned Halo 5's gameplay, but I personally loved it. I do still like the classic a lot better, and I'm so ready for Halo Infinite to just be normal old school Halo. But as kind of like a side thing, Halo 5's movement system was honestly really fucking cool. I mean, it opted for a ton of creativity, and obviously the maps could have been designed better to support stuff like that. But Doom was really good with that. Doom's map design was insane. It was absolutely great. It wasn't extremely open ended, but it doesn't need to be, because the point is to just be a linear ish shoot 'em up with like a pretty good amount of variety. You had a map 100% there, to you. You could navigate everywhere you needed to go, but you didn't have to go through all the big areas to progress through the story. There was a central path. They just gave you the option to explore outside of the beaten path. And adding in any kind of verticality to a game with that much fluidity, that's great. And to topping that all off with the music itself, I mean, like it's as fast as you can move in that game now. Just throwing fucking speed metal into that game, I don't know why, but I feel that would be ridiculous. Like that would be amazing. That would be, oh my god. I was fucking just gushing over it right now, but I really really hope that this turns out good, because it could turn out pretty fucking bad. It could turn out really bad. I don't really know exactly how highs would work in a game. I feel like they'd have to stick more with gutturals and mids. But I mean, he did damn good. I don't care what anybody says. It is a little overrated, but he did damn good with the original 2016 soundtrack. And I think that as long as he doesn't go too far with it, he could do really good with this. And we could see possibly another BAFTA nomination. Obviously, with the vocals, that doesn't really appease to mainstream as much. Maybe not even get a nomination, but if it did, that'd be, I mean, one step closer to hopefully getting metal back into the mainstream scene. Because as much as I don't mind pop, and I love hip hop and rap, but I need to change. Like, I'm so tired of listening to the same cookie cutter bullshit. It's just I want to like get in my car and not have to put in one of my thousands of CDs just so I can listen to music that I want to hear. I just want to be able to go on to the radio and listen to actually good rock, because modern rock fucking sucks. Okay, let's get back into let's get back into video games a little bit. Final story. This isn't super concerning, but at the same time, it's kind of an interesting shift. Nintendo Japan President Shuntaro Furukawa, I probably butchered that. God damn, it's an article from International Business Times that Nintendo as a game company may move away from home consoles altogether. And I'm a little scared of that, and I don't know if I want to say no or yes to that. I'm not really sure. But again, it says Nintendo Japan President Shuntaro Furukawa has confirmed his plans for the company's future, revealing that they are considering moving away from developing their next big console. Because over time, obviously, they're branching out quite a bit. The Switch, obviously, it's a massive success. I think it's like what, 8-some million fucking units in under 2 years. Well, has it been under 2? It seems, I don't know. It seems like the Switch just came out yesterday, but I'm pretty sure it's like March 2017. So we're almost at the 2-year mark, and they're doing really good. And I'm so happy for this that it's actually working. Like the Wii U was such a fucking flop. I honestly was really worried for what was gonna happen because they were so far up their own ass after they released the Wii. They had this holier than thou mentality that whatever they do, whatever they release, it's just gonna work. And I'm glad they got kicked in the ass, but they got kicked in the ass really fucking hard on the Wii U. And I was worried that they'd probably just scramble like, what are we gonna do? And I remember way back whenever before the Switch had its name, whenever it was codenamed NX, and information was starting to leak out, people were like really cautious about this. Doesn't seem like a good idea. How is this gonna work? Like, I'm just not even gonna buy it. Like, people were shitting on it before they even gave it a chance. But I'm so glad the Switch is such a great. I mean, honestly, I could have a whole fucking episode just talking about the benefits of having a Switch and how great it is as a console itself, minus the online. That's definitely something I'd like to talk about in another episode. They're doing so good with what they have. I mean, they could expand into a ton of things. We have obviously, they're pretty cemented into the smartphone market by now. They have a pretty decent amount of games. Not all of them are the greatest, but they are getting better over time. The Animal Crossing game was, it was okay. Fire Emblem Heroes is actually pretty good. I feel like that's honestly a pretty good choice for a mobile game because like putting in turn-based combat seems like something that should have been put on there a long time ago. But I'd prefer if they would just bring back Advanced Wars, please. Could you just please, Intelligent Systems, stop with Fire Emblem and give me an Advanced Wars game. I've been waiting for Wargroove for I don't even know how long, and I don't think Chucklefish is ever gonna get that shit out. But there isn't a lot of games like that coming out, and tactics games are just I love them. I love them so much. I need me some Advanced Wars. Back to the point though. On top of the mobile market, they're obviously, as most of you guys know, they're expanding into theme park territory with Universal. I can't even imagine how amazing that's going to be. And now they're finally going back into movies with a fucking Detective Pikachu. That honestly doesn't look that bad. I mean, the last time they had a major movie obviously was, I don't know. Well, obviously live action was the Mario movie, but I think the original Pokemon movie was released in theaters, and goddamn, that was a good movie. But either way, Detective Pikachu doesn't. It honestly looks pretty good. Some of the characters look a little creepy in live action realistic portrayal. They're a little creepy, but I'm really hopeful that this, even if it's not the greatest movie, I hope it sells super fucking good to give Nintendo incentive to keep going with this. I mean, I mean, oh my god, I could just imagine like a live action Metroid movie. Like, give me the most ultimate, just the most sci-fi shit. And I don't know how they go about it with giving her a voice because they completely butchered it in The Other M. But I feel like they could do it. Needless to say, they have a lot more avenues of money that they can rely on, and home consoles themselves have never really been Nintendo's strong suit. They got really lucky with the Wii, but it was obvious why the casual market is way more oversaturated in population than the typical gamer. And I mean, I don't think I know a single family that doesn't have a Wii, even if they've never used it outside of like the first few weeks that they bought it and had fun with Wii Sports. Like, I don't know a person that doesn't have a Wii or has not owned a Wii. And it's great that it made them all the money, but other than that, they've not really had like super crazy success with any of their consoles. Not to say that they were bad, because I mean, fuck, the GameCube, the 64, the Super Nintendo, I mean, partial to the NES, they were all really good consoles, and they had a lot of good games on them. But they've always been a lot better focusing on the mobile market. It seems like they have just, I don't know why, they just have a lot better. They have a lot more success with that. The Game Boy line and the DS, the 3DS, and I mean, I don't care what they say, talking about how the Switch is just a home console that you can take. It's a fucking portable console. Like, come on. Come on. I understand that obviously, you have the dock, you can plug it into the TV, but the base console itself is not meant to be sitting around. Like, it's meant to go wherever you go. And that's half of what I use it with. I mean, I almost never have the thing docked unless I'm playing, I guess, something that I just can't stand to hold the Joy-Cons for, like Monster Hunter or Xenoblade. Oh my god. Some games look absolutely shit undocked, and some look terrible docked. It just kind of depends. But honestly, I don't really know where this is where this is really going to go for them. They have, like I said, a ton of options for monetary gain, and if they just focus on this, I don't think they'll do that bad. But a part of me really wants just regular consoles to stay a thing, and I understand that everyone's kind of going more digital, and it would make more sense if a mobile console was the go-to because a lot of people just don't buy physical anymore, which I don't agree with, but I guess I'm just set in my ways. Like I don't want to ever in the next 10 to 15 years, even though it's more than likely going to happen. I don't want to go home to my girlfriend and play games with her on a fucking stream box and have to make sure that my internet connection is constant just to play a game. Like digital games just don't, like, we don't have the internet. America doesn't have the infrastructure required yet to have an always online system, and that's why people bitched about the original plans for the Xbox One so much. And obviously, yes, that was 2013, so that's 6 years ago. But internet really hasn't changed that much in America now. So if all the companies still try to push for that, I don't really see that going anywhere. Like I don't think we're ready for that yet. But even when we are, I don't want there to be a time whenever I can't just go to, even if it is a Walmart. Okay, like GameStop's obviously going to go out of business eventually, but even if it is just Walmart or Target or Best Buy, like I want to be able to go there and actually pick up and physically hold my game. I don't want to have to pay $60 just for a license and then have to worry about all this time later whenever they are considered classic games and I want to go back and play them just like I do right now with my NES and my SNES, all my class. I still play all of those games. I don't want to have to go back into that and, okay, well, I never downloaded that again. Let's say I deleted one of the games on my digital library because I needed space. All that time later, I can't just take it and play it. If the server's shut down, if whatever service that I bought it from, let's just say Steam, obviously that's not going to happen anytime soon, but whenever it eventually does, because eventually it will, they're not mine anymore. I can't just, tell Steam to turn their servers back on for a couple seconds so I can get the game and then shut back down. Like you don't actually own any digital game that you purchase, and that's what bothers me. Obviously CDs wear and tear over time, but as long as you take care of them, they'll last a long time. The only thing that digital really seems to serve a really good purpose for is making sure that video games don't go to the wayside and just disappear from history as far as video game preservation goes. And Nintendo's been really, really terrible about that. And I understand that's an older topic, but that's what I wanted to segue into. I understand that before this was the last topic, but and that this is a really old topic, but I'm getting really tired of what Nintendo's doing with these ROM sites. Now, I completely understand that ROMs themselves, distributing and downloading distributed ROMs, that's illegal, but it comes to a certain point where you need to be able to have your history archived, and video game preservation is not taken seriously. It's never been taken seriously, and the industry right now is, it's definitely getting better as far as making sure that video games are preserved as history. But like I said a little bit ago, video games weren't considered an official art form by the Supreme Court. Until like what was like it's been less than 10 years ago. Movies and music has always been given that sentiment, and that's great, but video games are just as much a form of art as any of that, and maybe even more. I mean, just in my opinion, the amount of complexity, depth, personal experience, joy, like there's so much you can get out of a video game that you just can't with a movie or music, because you're not virtually involved in it. Like you don't actually control the decisions and opportunities that whatever the player character can do. So just for me at least, I feel a lot more in tune with the video game world than than whatever kind of world a movie is trying to build or music is trying to set up, and they need to be preserved. And Nintendo is just they just don't seem to care. And I would assume that somewhere in Japan's headquarters, they have every single game they have ever made archived somewhere. But you can't just leave one copy of that game and then that's it. Something eventually is gonna happen. Your fucking whatever drive, whatever server it's set on, something bad's gonna happen. Something is going to happen, and the only remnant you have left of that game is just gonna be fucking gone. And we need to make sure that we keep stuff like that. It's so hard to find some of the older games now that what else are you going to do? Nintendo doesn't provide a way to play half of the games in their catalog anymore. They have so many, like their back catalog it's immense. It is so much bigger than any of the other companies combined. Yet every time they attempt virtual console, they only shell out like just a fraction of what they have. Like, we're probably never going to get to play half of the games that have ever been released on any of those consoles. And that just really makes a lot of people wonder, where are they? What are they doing with these games? Enter in ROM sites, which, yes, I understand. It's illegal. Like, okay, cool. I personally don't download ROMs because I understand, like, I do feel the same way, but at the same time, as far as just hosting them on a website, they need to be somewhere. They need to be somewhere. We need to be able to share and revel in the history of a company that literally saved video games from the crash that they were doomed to suffer in 1983. And then Nintendo was like, you know what, fuck that. We're gonna make video games work again. NES comes out, boom, and now we have what we have now. But the pioneer of the modern video game doesn't seem to care about its own licenses to the point where they will just fucking shut down ROM sites for no reason. I mean, obviously it is for a reason, and it is their IP, and they have all indemnable rights to it. But leave it alone. Just leave it alone. You don't give players the option to download half of the games that are on those websites on any console you own, with any service possible. So how else are we supposed to play those? The only legit way to get, let's just say fucking Star Wars. I mean, like, I get it. Like, but I mean, like, okay, it's like Star Wars Episode 5 on the NES. I played that shit all the time when I was little. I don't know why. It was so shit. Like running around on Hoth. It was cool, but like it was more nostalgia. But at the same time, like, you can't just go on the Wii U eShop and download that. You can't go on the 3DS eShop and buy that. And you sure as shit are not going to be able to get that on Nintendo Switch's online, and they're fucking Netflix bullshit. The only way to do that legally is to find a cartridge that someone's selling for more than likely an exorbitant price on eBay or Amazon or something, and hope to fucking God that it actually works, that there is not any rot. Like, it's so hard to play old games now, and they need to get with their shit. Taking down, was it Love ROMs, and then the competitor Emu Paradise had to take all their fucking Nintendo ROMs away. If they're gonna do that, they at least need to have a website holding up all of their archived games to make sure that everything that they've ever made, even if it's never able to download again, will still remain there, will still have its identity. And I understand I've been talking about this for a while, and I think I'm going to end here. I really hope that you guys have, or anybody for that matter, has stuck around this long. If you enjoyed anything that you heard, please, for the love of God, go to whatever provider you use, whether it's Stitcher, Spotify, Google Play. I'm still waiting on verification for Apple, so this is probably going to be a little old to people that have Apple Podcasts, but please subscribe. Follow me on whatever platform you're using. You can head over to my website, shoonpodcast.com. It has all the information you need to either support me through Patreon if you feel that you would like to, or, as far as providing an RSS feed and links to all of the sites that, that I have my podcast on, as well as a blog talk, for each episode. If you want to get into the conversation, adding your thoughts or conversations about anything that I've been talking about. And I think that's it. So, see you next week.